We are on the air, Mr. Franklin. How are you?
Well, I'm doing great. Eric, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm in Appleton, Wisconsin, sitting in a pen store, a large pen store. I forget the name of it. Oh, somebody just looked at me. Anderson Penn's brick and mortar store in Appleton, Wisconsin. Where are you, sir?
I'm in Wake Forest, North Carolina, at the Franklin-Christoph headquarters.
And this is your office?
That's right.
This is the inner sanctum? This is where all decisions are made?
Yep, the Lion's Den.
The Lion's Den. Let's talk about that. You run, own, manage? You do everything, don't you? We're talking about Franklin-Christoph here.
That's right, yeah.
How long have you been making pens?
Well, we started in 1901 manufacturing, but we didn't get into pens until the mid-90s. And probably the first 7-8 years, we contracted out others to manufacture our pens. The euro started getting expensive, so I started looking around the U.S. And finally hooked up with a guy named Dan Simons, which many of you know. And Dan and I set up a shop in Houston and started our manufacturing about 4 or 5 years ago. And then a year ago, moved it here to Wake Forest. So.
And you used to live in Texas?
No.
Oh,
Dan Simons.
So you just brought everything over to where you live, so you didn't have to move.
That's right. He moved.
He moved. But that's working out for everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been great.
Now, who is true? I give you all the credit, but really, I need to ask, who is the genius behind the designs of these pens?
Well, it truly is a team effort. They start right here, and I usually just sketch them out on a pad. But then I go to Dan, and Dan and I sit down and find out what's realistic. I might exaggerate a little bit in the aesthetics of my design, and then we kind of bring it back home and work through it together. So really, Dan is a genius mechanical engineer, and then I have a little bit of skills at aesthetic design, so it's a pretty good team.
So it's a really good team, especially given the results. How many different pens are you making models?
Let's see. We have the 02, the 03, the 19, the 20, the 27, the 29, 33, pocket 40, 65, 66, pocket 66, and pocket 20 now. So
I got a dozen.
That's about 17.
17. Since you counted them off like that, I have to ask about your model numbering system, because it's numbers and it's very confusing to me, probably because I don't understand the key. Explain.
It's a super secret system we have.
Okay. So I'm just going to be confused about it for the rest of my life.
It's funny. Originally I gave the pens only nicknames. So the first 3 or 4 models, it was the IPO, the Dara, the Paradox, and then retroactively I went back. And so the first model, the IPO, was of course model 01. Then when we did the model 02, it was going to be sort of our new flagship fountain pen. So we did the model 02 in that number. But then we started bouncing all around. Generally, if it's a solid number like the number 20, the number 40, it's meant to be sort of a mainline model. If it's something more peculiar, like the upside down, the downward pointing nib in the 25, it gets some other kind of number like the 25. The 33 is an unusual design, so it's the 33. Mostly though, it's just nonsensical. And if I
pull them out of a hat,
right?
You pull them out of a hat and you give them main numbers if they're main pens. And see, I've got 2 of your 66s.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming now that these are peculiar pens.
Yeah, a little bit more so because they're desk pens. They don't have clips, that sort of thing. There's a little bit of rhyme or reason. When if it has a 5 in the number, in the second number, then it definitely takes a number 5 nib. So the 25, the 65, they take number 5 nibs. The 66, pocket 66, take the number 6 nib. We may end up doing that a little bit more with models down the road. And of course, eventually we'll run out of numbers, and so we'll just add another digit, and we'll go
Yeah, yeah.
Here's the model 100, and
You're never really going to run out of numbers.
right. But then, you know, you've got Mont Blanc out there at 146 and 149, so we'll have to kind of dodge those numbers.
Yeah, you can dodge those. No sense confusing people. I want to show a picture of this pen. I'm going to call it a Model 20.
Yep.
All right. I love this pen because it's a slip cap.
Yep.
Do you love this pen?
I love it. It's my favorite model. You know, I threads when I write, the way I hold the pen, and it's pretty mainstream way I hold a pen, but Pelicans, for instance, I love Pelican pens. They're great pens, but their threads are always right there on my middle knuckle, and so it's hard for me to write long periods. So we started doing things. We used block threading, which is actually interesting. Our block threading comes from the oil industry where Dan Simons worked in, and he was real good at they would make the pipes with these big, thick block threads. Well, we liked them for pens. Then we moved the threads down to the end of the section to be able to get that kind of to get them away. And a lot of people
you moved them to the end of the pen too. I forget the model number of that pen, where the whole pen is covered.
The 33, there's only threads back at the so they're at the top.
So they're out of the way completely.
Right, and so the problem is if you move the threads down to the end of the section, then you've got a shelf because the cap has to seat against something, so you build a shelf. Well, I sat down and said, how can I design a pen that will get rid of both threads and the shelf? And so, of course, that leads us to a slip cap pen, and thus the Model 20 was born. Of course, this is where the genius of Dan comes in. The problem with slip caps in the early days is it would put pressure right on the lip of the cap, and if they were posting against a taper and a long taper, and most vintage pens are that way. In fact, that's why they started putting the
bands,
the metal bands on pens to strengthen the lower part of the cap. But we actually, because there's no threads to deal with up in the Model 20 cap, we worked on shaping the interior of the cap in a fashion where it will actually the two spots, the very end of the section and the top of the section, will both go pressure fit inside the cap. That moves all the pressure away from the lip of the cap and disperses it throughout the cap. And then we shape the back of the barrel to be the same way. So it's a real nice, firm, tight hold. You literally cannot sling the caps off of those pens, and yet it's convenient. You don't have to mess with threads. The thing I love most about the pen is how comfortable it is in the hand. There's just really nothing to interrupt, nothing to grind against you for long writing sessions. And so
I have to agree. I love this pen. I saw it in Los Angeles at a time when you had already sold all the ones you were going to sell at the show. So I don't have one yet, but watch out, I'm going to get one. This is my favorite pen at the moment of your line. So,
oh, yeah.
and it's genius. It is just genius. And who likes to unscrew a cap? We all do it because we have to. But
right.
You know, you just make all your line like this, and no one's going to buy anything else.
It's funny. That's the majority opinion for sure. But then there are some people that just love the feel of unthreading a cap, especially if you've got those nice block threads. And so, you know, that's why in design, one thing I realized early on is you can't design one pen to be for everybody. So.
I guess that's true.
Yeah. So we spread it around, and that's why you have 12 different acrylic pen models and not
just one.
Yeah.
But this is the pen for me. This is the one I like, and I see you've got it in black and vintage green, you call it, and the red something or other you're calling it.
Tiger red, right?
And that you're not making that anymore. It's just
no. We just started making it.
Oh, just started this. Okay.
New color, and in our website, it's only in the stock room right now. Till the first batch is exhausted, which it almost is. We have another production underway, and then it will be placed in under regular order. One thing that's happened with some of our new colors, like the vintage green, for instance, we would have a batch in production and we would take pre-orders for them, but then they would sell out before that batch was finished, so we would move the date for the next batch of pre-orders. So that allowed people to go ahead, get their order in, and get them going, and not just sort of have a free-for-all. When we publish, we've got 25, 30 more made. So
you literally are selling them faster than you can make them.
Literally, yes. Yes, we are.
So are you going to have any at the pen show?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll have, usually we can time these where we'll be able to fulfill any pre-orders and then have another 10 or 12 left over for a show. And
now we're specifically here to talk about the Colorado Pen Show, but before that you have also the Dallas Pen Show. So
right.
Are you going to sell everything in Dallas and there will be no need for you to go to the Colorado Pen Show?
Well, the way it usually works is we sell everything and then we run back in the shop and get them cranking again and
Okay.
Get enough for another show. So.
Well, I'm going to see you in Dallas, but for anyone who's just going to Colorado, they will be able to see and buy your pens.
That's right, and I don't think I'll be able to make Dallas myself, but Jim Rouse.
Okay, your pens will be there. Your pens are more important than you. I'm sorry.
Well,
as long as the pens are there.
So I will be at the Colorado show. I'll be looking forward to that.
I was cruising around your website and found a new color. I'm not even going to try to guess what model this is. Oh, it says it's an 02. I got it.
That's right. We were working with, what's funny is acrylic can kind of change. And we had some old acrylic and it was much more golden amber. And we had intended to call this the amber, but as these things happen, when production got made, it had much more of an orange feel to it. But it's a semi-translucent acrylic that's really pretty. It has a touch of that sort of ice effect like our ice pens do. It's not as prominent in this, but we called it amber orange because it's kind of rides that line between sort of a golden honey color and a nice orange.
It's a beautiful color. What I see it called is an amber orange and cinnamaroon.
That's right. Cinnamaroon, of course, is a color name that we made up, and it's a maroon that's got little flecks of sort of golden amber in it that's very subtle. So it's like cinnamon. You
just design everything, don't you? You design words. When you don't have a word that you need, you just make up a word.
That's right. Yeah, we try.
One other thing I want to talk about your pens are your nibs, and specifically the fact that you have Mike Masuyama do your nibs. He doesn't do all the nibs, right? He does if the customer wants him to do the nib.
Sort of. He does all of our needle points, italics, and stubs. So we have fine italic, medium italic, and broad italic. They're all actually cursive italics. We don't do true italics that would be a little bit sharp. And then we do medium stub and broad stub, and of course needle points. But all of our factory nibs, the extra fine, fine, medium, broad, in a way, Mr. Masuyama has an influence on them because he taught all of us here 90% of what we know about nibs. So we do the 7-step tuning process that is all influenced by Mr. Masuyama. So even our factory nibs have a little bit of a touch of that. Of course, what you have here on the screen is an exclusive factory production, our Christoph nib, which everyone would know is a music nib, a 2-slit, 3-tine nib.
It's a 1.9 wide, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I noticed right away that this is a stamped nib. Are you doing all your nibs stamped now, or is it just these two?
No, just these two. Doing it as an exclusive, we paid the nib manufacturer for all the tooling, and while we were at it, we designed the stamp and got it made. You'll notice that's not an Old English F like we use in our main logo, but an Old English C, which stands for Christoph. So that stamp would only ever be used for this particular nib. We're looking into, as most people know, to do stamping is it requires a certain volume because included in that stamp is the EF, F, M, or B mark, and so you have to do pretty massive volumes to get them stamped, and we're kind of at that point now, so we probably will change over. But at the same time, I really like the engraving look of our standard nibs. In the steel, it gives it a nice gray. That diamond is a nice gray color, and kind of suits our aesthetic.
It totally works. The way you're doing the engraving on your nibs totally works, and you've got they call that negative space. You engrave around the F, so the F, yeah.
In relief, they would say. Yeah.
In relief. I'm so relieved. So you've got pens coming out all the time that are design genius, and you've got Mike Masuyama working on your nibs. You're looking to take over the pen world, aren't you? It's an evil plan, isn't it?
It is. It's a diabolical plan. We're about 2 steps in with about 8 to go.
Where do I send my money? But pens is not the only thing you make.
That's right. Well, it's in our manufacturing facility.
The only thing you offer. Excuse me.
Right. We design everything else, even our ink colors. We bottle our own ink here. We get it here in bulk, and then we bottle it. We make our own labels for that. Then, of course, our paper, we design the look and shape of the notebooks. We actually have a custom paper that we tinkered with the formula. It's based with Bagasse, which is a sugar cane. And it's been really great for fountain pens, been really well received. And of course, we do leather products, has always been a big part of our line. We do mostly writing related things, pen cases, notebook covers, all that sort of thing.
I thought I had a picture of your paper pads, but I can't find it at the moment. But while I'm talking, I'm going to keep looking. And no, I don't see it. But it's just a picture of your paper pads. Your paper is fantastic. I don't know what your secret is, but I've got like 3 favorite papers. One's from Japan and one's from France, and yours is right up there with it. And I don't know if you're well known for paper. Do you sell a lot of paper?
Well, it's funny. We made smaller production runs, even though it was more expensive to do that. To sort of test the market and see what people would like, and as far as shape and the type of covers we used. And I'm glad we did it that way, because we've been able to improve with each batch. And then, but it's a longer thing. There are many people involved. There's the paper mill, and then there's the binder and the printer. And so it's a complex process to get all that here into market. So we've sort of slow played it a little bit, if you will. We put it out there, but we haven't really marketed it heavily. But now we're getting our stock levels up, and we're satisfied with the product that we have, that it's 99% of what we want it to be. And so we just have a few minor tweaks going forward, that probably little things people wouldn't even notice. But so we're ready to start really pushing it now.
I think your paper's fantastic. I can't believe more people don't talk about it, but you're explaining why they're not talking about it. You're keeping it low key for now.
Right.
But this is all part of your plan again to take over the fountain pen world. I do want to show one more picture, and it is a pen pouch. It is a black pen pouch, which is the best photo I could find of it. But the reason I want to show it is because your pens ship in a pen pouch instead of a box. And they ship, my understanding is, in a maroon version of what's on the screen right now.
That's right. It was kind of like the idea of the Tiffany box. You can only get our maroon pouch if you buy a pen. The black one that you see here is something that you can buy separately on the website. They cost $20 each. But what I like to buy watches for myself. I don't buy pens anymore since I make them, but you get these big expensive boxes for nice watches, and I just don't feel like filling up a closet full of boxes, and so I always toss them. And there's always been a concern with pens. Well, nobody uses the boxes, but you have to keep them to keep the value, and so I really wanted to do something that would be more useful. And of course, they come in an outer shell box, a paper box. But it's been overwhelmingly positive since we made that change, going from just it's a small, elegant gift box that we have, but it's not nearly as useful as something like this. People
it's genius. It's genius because it looks good and it's useful. The box They usually look good. And yes, you're right. You have to keep them. I have a closet full of boxes, but I'm never going to do anything with them. But you can't throw them away. At
Right.
least with the pen pouch, I can put the pen in it and use it on a daily basis because I throw pens in my backpack.
Right.
I usually have one of your cases anyway. But so just another reason for me to order another pen from you. But if I buy a pen in Dallas, I'll get the pen pouch?
That's correct. Every pen that we make will come with one of those, no matter where you buy it or how you buy it.
Okay, good.
Except retailers like Anderson Pens.
Now, you don't really have retailers of your products, do you?
No, we don't.
Your products can be found at pen shows and on your website, but I don't know if you have more than Anderson pens, but you will. They've got special colors, right?
That's right. They've done more special editions than anyone else, and they favor a blue color. So we'll do like our O2, and it'll have a blue finial and section and a special acrylic that they picked out. So they have special editions that you can only buy through Anderson Pens.
Right. So they've got their version that only they sell, and you've got your versions that only you sell, either at your website or at a pen show.
Right.
But when you go to a pen show, you do it right, because I don't know how many tables you get.
It depends. Something like Colorado will have 2 tables because as we say, it's a fly-to show. It's a little bit harder to bring all the setup materials and trophies and all that stuff that we use to spread out at a show that we can rent a van and a cargo van and drive to. But so we'll have a little bit smaller. It'll be a little bit more focused on pens. We'll take less bulk in the leather and paper and ink. We'll have representatives of all that at a show, but we'll have a heavy. Of course, pens are small, and we can take a lot of pens. So,
right. So for the best selection, it's get to your table early and buy as much as you want.
That's right.
That's exactly what happened to me in LA, because I wanted the slip cap. By the time I got to the table with the credit card out, they were gone.
Right.
But that's a popular pen.
Yeah.
So when someone goes to the pen show, they're going to see your papers and your leather goods. And you take your inks with you?
We do. We'll have an ink tester kit. We have ICE Model 65s that are loaded with all the colors, so you can see what the ink looks like writing. Sometimes the swabs that we do don't give you a fair representation of what it actually looks like coming out of a pen, so we have both. And usually we'll have enough ink on hand. At some of these shows, we can only take a couple of bottles of each color. We're up to 12 colors now.
That was my next question. Thanks for reading my mind.
So, and we're developing more all the time. It's a fun thing to do. As you know, our line has got a lot of black in it. We're kind of known as the Black Pen Company, but we do touches of color. But we try to do colors that are sort of in our aesthetic with inks as well. But we can branch out a little bit and have some stuff.
Before I let you go and before I forget, what's on the table? What's the next pen?
Well, good question. I've got, we're redesigning the Model 25 a little bit so that will be tweaked. We have a new clip that we're going to retrofit on a couple of our older models, and will then be on our new models going forward. Have a Model 30 on the drawing board that we'll begin to develop. And then, believe it or not, we're going to start doing more acrylic ballpoints and mechanical pencils. That's something that we've sort of let, we used to do a lot more of that, and we've been so focused on developing our fountain pen manufacturing that we've sort of let ballpoints and pencils fall by the wayside a little bit. So we're going to reinvigorate that into our line a little bit.
Well, I'm glad you are. Everybody needs at least one ballpoint, one mechanical pencil.
Sure.
And if Franklin-Christoph is going to make them, they'll finally do it right.
There you go.
But what about this slip cap? Is it the O2 or the 2.0?
2.0, the 20.
The 20. Aren't you making a smaller version of that?
That's right. You must have heard that through the grapevine.
There was a picture somewhere.
Took a few out to the San Francisco show, and it's the Pocket 20. So it's a short version, much like we have our Pocket 40 and Pocket 66.
So what's about the size of the 20 itself, the full size?
What is the size?
Yeah, how long is it?
I don't know, 5 and something inches.
So the Pocket is?
And it's 3/4 of an inch shorter, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's significantly different.
Fits in your pocket, does it?
It does.
All right. Then you're allowed to call it a pocket.
That's right. That's right.
What else would you like to say that I haven't talked about?
Well, we had discussed, we have something out there called that you will not find on our website, but we'll try to take at least examples to a show, and that's our antique glass acrylic pens. People are calling it the Coke bottle pen. We took a few of those into the DC show and sold them. They kind of got out on the internet and went viral a little bit, and we developed a waiting list. The waiting list is 4 to 6 weeks deep on that. We took a pocket 20 in the antique glass finish to the San Francisco show. Now we're starting to develop a waiting list for that, and so it's a very interesting thing. We worked, Dan and I worked on creating this finish, and it's a light green translucent pen, and with this finish it makes it look like truly antique blown glass, but it's the same methacrylate acrylic that we use in other pens. So that's something that's really interesting, and we're trying our best. It takes a long time to do this with each one, so it's a slow process to get them out to market, but trying to satisfy our waiting list, and hopefully we'll have some at pen shows in the coming year. We'll definitely in Colorado we'll have a couple to show if we don't have any for sale.
I would like to see them in real life, because the picture that was released to the internet caused quite a stir.
Yeah.
Aziza texted me right away and said, I have to have this pen. And she calls it a mint pen. And I said, what's a mint pen? And then she said, the Coke bottle pen. And I'm going, what are you talking about?
That's right. I think it was Thomas Hall got the only Pocket 66 and at the DC show. And I said, yeah, it's kind of like a Coke bottle pen. And so almost every day we get an email. I heard about your Coke bottle pen. I wanted to get on the waiting list. So it's kind of like we don't really call the music nib the music nib. To us, it's the Christoph nib. In this finish, we call antique glass, but everybody else is going to call it the Coke bottle pen.
Well, as long as they're talking about it and they're all talking about the same thing, that's okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, did I hear you correctly? Just let me verify that you're going to make the Pocket 20 in this. I'm going to call it the Coke bottle glass, because I have forgotten the real name.
That's right. We'll make it in right now we're producing the Pocket 66 and the long 66. And when we kind of get that more satisfied, we'll make the Pocket 20 and the full-size 20 in the antique glass. This will never be sort of an open stock thing. It's always going to be either on a waiting list or a small run. There's a section of our website called the stock room, and like if we get 10 of something made, we'll put it in there in the stock room. It's just a little bit too long of a process making these to be able to just put them out on the site.
So really, I have to get on your waiting lists.
You should, yes.
I guess I'm going to. I guess I have to, because I have to have it
right here on my computer.
Okay. On a sticky?
No. On Apple Notes or whatever they call it.
I'll have to get on the waiting list, because I don't want to miss them. And I could easily have all 4 of those pens.
You could.
Yes, I'd be very happy with that. So that's 4 waiting lists. I'll get on that as soon as I get you off the phone.
Okay.
So people can see you next. No, not you, but your table at least in Dallas. But they will see you live and in person signing autographs at the Colorado Pen Show.
That's right.
All right.
I don't know if anyone will ask for an autograph, but if they do, I'll be happy to sign it.
Thanks for taking time out of your Saturday to sit here with me and chat about pens.
Thanks so much. I always enjoy it.
I hope to see you soon. Talk to you next time.
Yep. Take care, Eric.
Bye.
See y'all.